And a blueberry scone.
Okay, so how many of you have been on either side of that conversation? Okay, all right. So what happens is, for some people, things are a task. It's a thing to move on to the next thing. Okay? Take a cup of coffee, for example. Okay, so what our two that we've learned so far is more about our orange and our gold, right? Okay? For coffee, usually a lot of orange people, and again, not making, but most orange people don't actually like coffee. Because it takes too long to drink. Because they have to wait for it to cool off. Or if they do drink coffee, it's actually, they get iced coffee, or there's more cream in it than actual coffee, or really it's just chocolate milk, you know, I mean, whatever. But it's a function of the day. It's like, okay, I'm thirsty, I'm gonna get something to drink. You know? And they don't have the place they always go. It's just whatever the closest, like, oh, okay, well, there's Dunkin' Donuts, cool. And the next day it's, you know, Krispy Kreme, the next day it's Chick-fil-A. It's like, there's no loyalty there usually. And in the orange, they're just, I just need coffee, so I'm gonna drink it today. No big deal, right? Now Gold has the membership card. Okay. The Gold, you could set your watch at Starbucks by the Gold person when they show up every day for their coffee. Okay. The people at this coffee shops love the people who are Gold because they know they're going to come back all the time, every day. Just be a little bit nice to them, and then they're your customers for life. Because they're going to be loyal to the place that takes care of you, right? And it's efficient, right? You know, be nice but not too nice. You know, don't give them their whole life story, right? Okay, I want you to know that I, you know, want to be nice, but I don't want to hear everything, right? Because I'm on a schedule here. I got things to do. Got places to go. Okay. All right. So let's talk about a blue with a cup of coffee. Oh yeah. For a blue cup of coffee is an experience.
It's like a world.
It is. It is.
Marty's gonna be sad that she missed this.
It is warm. It's cozy. It's, you know, the amount of, do you buy the sleeve or do you not just because of the temperature of the day? Right, or not buy the sleeve, but put it on there, right? You know, because, you know, the cup itself of coffee has feelings. Right, it needs to be kept warm. It needs to be taken care of. It needs to be appreciated for how much it's giving you the love and appreciation, okay? So when it's time to go get coffee, and this might be the question, when someone says, hey, you want to go get a cup of coffee? If an orange asks you that, you better be ready to go get a cup of coffee and then figure out what you're going to do next. If a blue says, hey, you want to go get a cup of coffee, that means, you know, let's talk till noon. Okay, there's a different idea here of, you know, right?
That's what I just said.
So everyone in the room says, or hears, you want to go get a cup of coffee? Well, if you're a blue, and the blue is high on your list, you're not, you heard coffee, okay, but you didn't process coffee. You processed relationships, conversation.
Let's go spend some time together.
Yeah, let's go spend time together, you know, all that stuff, right? Okay, but the orange is thinking function, like, okay, and then what are we going to do next? You know, and then if it's a blue, it's like, well, I haven't thought about what's next. I want to go get coffee and just, you know, when we decide to leave, we'll leave. And the orange is going, I'm not okay with that, I don't think, you know, because I don't know what's next. Not because they're scheduled people, like the Gold. Orange just needs, there's constant activity and movement and stimulation, all that stuff, right? For a Gold, it would be, well, I've only got an hour, or I've only got 30 minutes. So if we can do it in 30 minutes, I can go, right? Because everything else is already scheduled out. So I can't mess up my day. I mean, I love you, like you and all, and I realize you're going through a divorce and 2 kids are fighting and all this stuff, but I only got
That'll
some
get
time.
better.
That's not what they say out loud, but that's what they're saying, and then the person who's a blue hears, oh, I only got a half hour. What that means is you're only a half hour important to me, right? So there's so much conversation that happens. It's called meta communication. It's so much conversation that happens in your own head about what the other person said that they don't have any clue that what you're thinking. So how do you increase your communication is, one, you say out loud what you're thinking, but with a filter and packaged in a way because you understand more about yourself and the other person. Does that make sense? Okay. So looking at blue, what do you see consistently on this side over here? What's the word that shows up? Two. T-O. One of the most dangerous and hate that word. Right? Because so many of us, so many in the world, and maybe some of you, are these things naturally. And those are fantastic, wonderful traits that most everybody should have some of this in their life, if not a lot of it. Okay? But the problem is you've been around other people, like oranges and greens, and sometimes goals, who could care less about that. And so to them, having emotions at all is too emotional. Even thinking or feeling something that's not logical is too much, right? Too intense, too much. So they put the TOO in front of it, and you hear this over and over and over again, you start thinking, this is bad. Unless you're around another blue. And then you find that one, you're like, oh, I feel like I've known you my whole life. We just met, but I feel like, you know, like we're soulmates, you know, like best friends, you know, all this stuff, right? Because your ability to see and their ability to communicate and all those things happen very quickly, and those emotions are there, and you just sense it and feel it, right? But otherwise, and unfortunately otherwise, most of the TOO happens from our parents, from our friends, from boyfriends, girlfriends, significant others, people that we care about, right? Because a lot of times we're attracted to the opposite, right? So then when the opposite and the initial part of, well, I see something that I like in this person because they're opposite of me, that brings something new to my life, well then later on, it's the issue, the trouble is opposites attract, but then opposites attack. That's the problem. If you stay opposite, they're gonna start attacking. Because what you really thought was cute about them or what they thought was cute about you right in the first part, it becomes the most annoying thing in the world. Okay? Because it was cute, well now, well you didn't change it. Like you didn't meet me halfway. And that's kind of the opposites thing happens here. Great, initial, but if you, both of you don't do this a little bit, then that's gonna be disaster, okay? But the TOO part, I hate that word. Because it puts so much on somebody that they can't really just be who they are because they're too worried about, okay, about how it's coming across, okay? So blues, how many blues do we have? Or at least second, maybe blue two, okay? All right, or a blue. How many of you would say to a blue, you talk too much? Okay?
Well, actually, I talk myself a lot.
Right, but here's the thing. If you say that to somebody enough, what are they gonna start doing?
Stop talking.
They're probably gonna stop talking, or they're gonna get angry about the fact that they talk, and they're just gonna talk even more just to, you know, because that's how they've been labeled, so it might as well be that anyway, right? Okay, well what if they had heard all their life growing up, you know what, you're a great communicator, I value when you have a conversation. I mean, how totally opposite are those two statements? But you're talking to the same person who's doing the same action. You're just taking into account the fact of what you're saying and how it's going to be pressed, right? Okay? I realize you want harmony in this situation. I realize you want to have resolution here, okay? But we still might need to process this a little bit longer, as opposed to stop being so weak and just giving in. You know, let's actually come up with a mutual agreement, okay, a consensus. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. You're saying the same thing. You're trying to communicate the same thing, but you're saying it or packaging it a little bit different. Okay. All right. Green, last one. Okay. Again, green see themselves, you know, confident, mentally tough, okay, rational, visionaries, inventive. These are your big idea people, right? They have great ideas about things. They have great plans of, you know, what we're going to end up with. They analyze too much. If you're stuck in your green, sometimes I call that, it's a paralysis by overanalysis. Okay? You're just thinking about it so much, you just can't do anything. Okay, so a green will come up with a great idea, but they just need someone to go, you know what, that's a good idea, you should do that. And then they'll do it. Okay? Even though they know it's the right answer, and they've processed more than anybody else ever about this decision, they still just need that one person to say, no, it's a good idea. All right. But what can happen is, because of their ability to be good at analysis, this is an issue that happens in my house a lot. Okay, my wife says, hey, I've got an idea, let's go do this weekend. And my first response is, as a green and I'm good at analysis, what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna think about it, I'm gonna respond in a way that says, what do you think? What do you think I'm gonna say?
Something that offends her.
In what way though?
Like you think she, like, called her stupid. Something.
Without actually saying it,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm like, well, that's not a good idea, it's gonna rain this weekend,
Yeah.
right?
And
Oh,
she's
and when she
trying to
probably hadn't even looked at the weather, or even if she did, so what, right? Or, you know, let's go do this, and then my next thing is, and then we could go do this. Or did you think about, you know, or what if we added this to it, or what if, and she's like, why can't I just have a good idea? Why can't what I said just be the idea? And I'm thinking, well, it can be, but it could always be better. Like, that doesn't mean that you're not good at it, it just means when I hear something, I need to analyze it and make it better. That's just how my mind works. Well, to that person, it comes across as critical and fault line, like she can't ever do anything right, you know, it's always wrong, blah, 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 okay? So, in sports, again, as, you know, student athletes, if you're good at analysis, you have to be careful that you're not coming across as the one who's always finding fault in what other people are doing. That your communication of, hey, we could do this better, or this play could be different, or, you know, sometimes even, you know, talking to the coach in a certain way, you're just analyzing, you're just thinking, well, they think the same way I do, so this conversation is going to go in a good direction because, well, they've obviously seen the problems I'm seeing. And then you start saying it, and then you get the old, you know, why are you talking right now? You know, like, well, what are we doing here? You know, kind of a pushback because what you're saying is coming across totally different than what you mean. And then you're confused, like, coach won't listen to me. I don't understand that. Or my friends, why are my friends not listening to me? You know, or why is this, you know, significant other, why are they being so, you know, emotional about this, right? And all I said was, you know, well, we could go to McDonald's instead of Wendy's. Like, no big deal.
It's just closer, it's right
Yeah, I mean, it's right here, right? Like, that would be silly. But it comes across as that judgmental, like, I'm so much smarter than you, you couldn't have thought of this on your own. And that's the way it comes across, but that's not really what you mean. What you mean is, well, if given these points of information, this would be the logical step to go. This would be the way to do it, okay? And again, only 15% of people in the world work in this area, so they have to work the hardest at understanding who they are, because the majority of people are not, okay? So they find themselves in situations where they think they're coming across a certain way and they're just not at all, okay? And it usually takes a little bit more to do that. And they also like to be by themselves. They're perfectly fine to be by themselves, so they typically don't integrate as much anyway, all right? I mean, you take a student who doesn't have but one or two friends maybe, and sits by themselves at lunch. You know, parents come and pick them up after school, and you're like, man, that must be like the worst life ever. And so you think, okay, I'm going to do something. I'm going to go over and talk to this person. And I'm going to be nice. I'm going to step out and be nice to this person because you're blue and you don't want people to feel left out. So you walk over and you just real nice. I'm going to use this as an example, right? So I'm really nice. I'm going to say, hey, you know, you're by yourself, not because you would be by yourself, right? So I'm going to say, hey, I'm Mr. Flowers, and you know, it's good to see you. How are you doing today? And what are they going to do?
It's not good, they're like, what have you doing?
What are you doing here? And I'm going to get the cold shoulder, and then I'm going to think, okay, I need to try harder because she's obviously been hurt so often, so much, right? That I'm going to try even harder, right? I'm going to try even harder. I'm going to push, and I'm going to push probably sometimes if I don't realize it to the point where finally it's so uncomfortable. Well, it's good to meet you, and then I get up and walk away.
Feeling like
I failed, feeling like I did something wrong, feeling like, why doesn't she like me? Right? Or why is you know, but the whole point is, you put all the stuff on the situation based on what you saw from the outside. But if they're a high green, they're perfectly fine. They didn't even notice there was 100 people in the lunchroom, because they're just doing their own thing. There could have been 10 or 100, it wouldn't matter. Right? So you coming up to them was like, why is this person invading my space? Right? Okay? There's the bubble. Stay outside the bubble. You know. Okay? And I'm perfectly fine in my bubble. Don't need anybody in there. You know, I'm good. Right here, by myself. Okay? So sometimes what you think or what you place on someone else, your judgments or your ideas and those kind of things, then you react and act in that way, and then they reflect back the opposite. One, our natural inclination is to think we did something wrong. But if we process it through, okay, here's where I'm coming from, here's where they might be coming from, it creates a different. Okay? So how does this all work, or why are we even doing this? Okay, first of all, because hopefully this and things like this will just make you better people. Okay? Better moms someday, better wives someday, better sisters now, better daughters now, okay? Better teammates. Okay? Because you understand more about yourself, that you're able to communicate and relate with others better. Okay? That's the whole point. Because anything else that we do as a group, and the way things have changed now, our society is not in the position where it's only the captains get to talk. Okay? Or only the coach gets to have influence on the team. Okay? Every single one of you, even though you're not even here yet, have influence on what happens with Kennesaw State Lacrosse. Okay? Because you have the ability, even through something as simple as this, right? You can get on here and make declarations and create hashtags and do all